that. I didn't see any football jerseys on the line.
TM was going crazy. Yeah, I hope we get MVP, but alright. Name is Brooks.
Hi guys.
How you good?
I've been all right.
Yeah. So you know what today is, right? And
Yes.
we're gonna give you an interview and ask you some questions about like the court
About the
case and stuff.
fight and how you feel about it.
So
Okay.
first we're gonna start with like how long you've been at NTA, how long you've been working here at NTA and stuff.
Well, I was trying to think. 2010.
2010?
2010. I've been here since 2010. I was a third grade teacher, right, Caleb?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
third grade teacher for a while, and then an instructional coach, and then now this is entering my 4th year as assistant principal. So it's been a journey here, and I think the most rewarding thing is being able to be a leader in this building where I was actually a teacher. So I knew the families, I knew the students, and then being able to have them welcome me with open arms from starting as a teacher here to now an assistant principal, that has really been a joy for me. And so every day that I get up and I come to this building, I'm always asking myself, what more can I give? How much more can I give to each of you all, but not only you, but to the staff here at NTA and then to the families at NTA. So I'm always trying to do more and improve. You all help me improve at the job that I do.
How did you react to how did you react when you first heard that NTA was going to turn into high school? And like being like an assistant principal, like how did that make you feel as well?
So that was I was completing my first year of assistant principal. And for me, I was thinking, how could this be? Everything that we were told to do in terms of what a top performing school should look like and sound like we had done. And so it was disheartening, but it was also very confusing. I remember being hired here at NTA and looking at the data at that point. And in my interview, asking Ms. Rome, like, why do the numbers look this way? What are we going to do in order to make sure that not just my third grade class, but the entire building is successful? And her and I laugh about that interview all the time, because right away walking in, I had a vision to change what once was to what it is now. And so for me, hearing that the work that we had done as a staff was still not good enough, even though you told us that CPS, when I say you, I'm speaking in terms of Chicago Public Schools, all of the matrix that they look at to determine a great school, we had done those things and surpassed those. So why now are we at this point?
Yeah, what impact would the closing of NTA have on you?
Well, this is my family, this is my life. Yes, I've taught at other schools prior to, but this place is different and it's special. And so for me, it would have devastated me if that had happened, along with my goals and career path in terms of improving every year for you guys. So I don't know if NTA had closed, I don't know where I would have been right now at this moment. And I can imagine that I, even in December, would have been very unhappy with where I was. Because, quite honestly, none of us would have been sitting here today if we had not won last year on December 3rd. Because that was not the plan. I won't say none of us. I mean, correct that. Some of our middle school students were slated to still remain. But the determination as to what would happen with Principal Castellez and myself, that had not been determined. And also I battled with the fact of, would I even want to be in this place? Because it wouldn't be the same, it would be very different. The only thing that I continued to weigh was the fact that you all, as 8th graders, would still be here. And if I chose to leave and not see you through, because it would have been 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that were left, what impact would that have on all of you all? So that was in the back of my mind, but also this building would have felt very different, because it's not NTA as a building, it's the people inside the building that make us who we are.
So since you know how like the fight was very long and how like long it lasted, like what motivated you to keep going? Like, yeah, like what motivated you to keep going?
I remember each of the town hall meetings, and I would see you all as students stand up and speak. I would see our families and parents stand up and speak out. And originally, Principal Castellez and myself, we had talked about like which one of us would be that voice, and he was the one that would be that voice. And so after each meeting, I would go home, and it bothered me. And I would share with my family that I felt less than, because all of the teachings that we had done over the years in terms of teaching you all that you had a voice and you must stand up for what's right, I felt as if you all were displaying that. But for me sitting back and being silent, I wasn't using my voice the way it should have been used. And I questioned my role in the whole thing. And how is it that my students in my building can be brave enough to stand up and speak out, and yet I sit silent? And so it was one town hall meeting where Principal Castellez and myself hadn't discussed it all, me going up. But I could not sit there any longer. A student has just finished speaking, and I couldn't sit there any longer. And so I stood up, and we were at the church, and I went and I spoke, and my speech wasn't, it was more so because I was bothered. I was bothered by the fact that our school was being slated to close, but none of the individuals that stood on the panel or sat on the panel to close our school and making that decision had ever stepped foot in our building. And so my speech was more so, come to NTA, see what's happening, see all the great things, see all of our students, see all of our families, see the teaching that's happening, before you make the decision to just close a school. None of you have done that. So it's more so an invitation and inviting them into the building to come see all the great things you guys are doing now. That didn't happen, they didn't come. But I figured if I took that approach, that something in their hearts would say, let me go see. But that never occurred. Yeah.
Was it hard fighting against the Board of Education?
I think what I previously just shared was hard for me. Like at different points, feeling like your voice was silenced, and it had to be silenced at different points in time, because I am an employee. I work for Chicago Public Schools, but yet I was angry, bitter inside that this was happening. And there were times that I felt like I could not say exactly what was on my mind. So that, Brandon, made it difficult to fight against them. But the beauty of that was that we were able to equip all of you all to be able to be, at that point in time, to even be my voice. And so, whereas you all look at me and you say, oh, Mrs. Brooks is our assistant principal, I look to you and say, you're my voice. Because at that point in time, you were the voice for myself and Principal Castellers. You were able to say things that we couldn't say. Or we would be looked at a certain way for saying. But you all never wavered from that. You spoke out and you stood up.
What do you think and feel how like the community and the parents would like were taking CPS or were taking on CPS and like how they was like fighting and how did you feel about that? How did you feel and think about, or how did you think when you heard that the parents and community were taking CPS to court to fight to keep NTA elementary school?
So I had heard the buzz that some of our parents were coming together and going to possibly file a lawsuit. And so that was one thing, but then hearing it announced, it was graduation day in June, that we had officially filed a lawsuit against Chicago Public Schools. That day was emotional for so many reasons. The students that were graduating on stage had played a large role in speaking out. And so I think it was powerful for them to hear on that day, their graduation day, that our parents had filed the lawsuit, but then on top of that, we had kindergarten and pre-K graduation that same day. And so looking at the kindergarten babies, I said to myself, they won't be able to enjoy this building. They only had one more year to enjoy the building. And the pre-K babies, in my mind, for them, that would have been it. You know, they would have gone to kindergarten, and they would have been the last kindergarten graduating class for NTA. So when I heard that the community had come together to file this lawsuit, I was overjoyed, but still worried. So as much as I was happy, I was still worried, and I was still worried because so many individuals, and I know so many people within Chicago Public Schools would tell me whenever they would ask, oh, you're at NTA? Oh, it's a done deal. Oh, it's a done deal. Don't worry about it. Why are you guys putting so much effort into it? And as much as my belief was strong and I felt in my heart that we were going to win, you still had these outside factors and voices telling you that has never been done. I would never speak the words, and Principal Castellers and myself had many, many conversations behind closed doors about the fight and what was happening and the possible closure. But I would never speak the words out of my mouth that NTA will be turned into high school. And we would have conversations, and he would say, Sneaker, we have to look at both sides of it. As much as I'm with you, I'm on the same page as you. And I said to him, I can't even have that conversation. I couldn't have the conversation, what will be my next steps and moves if this happens, because I didn't want the thought to enter my mind, because I felt if I started to think that the school would close, then it would happen. And so I did not want to speak that into existence.
Did you have any doubts or stuff like that about school?
Doubts with the outside factors entering into my mind, saying it's a done deal, it's never been done. I even went to job fairs to interview teachers to come to NTA, and one lady was not coming up to ask for an interview. She came up to me and she said, why are you sitting here? It was myself and another teacher. I remember Miss Nalem, and she looked at me and she said, it is a done deal. You should pack your things up and you should leave. And I looked in disbelief because this was not an administrator, this was a teacher coming to my table and telling me that. And I said, well, you just wait and see. I want you to continue to watch the news. It is not a done deal. It is not over. And so then she ended up walking away.
And a year later, how do you feel about the win?
So this past weekend, it was really interesting because I was looking at all of my memories and the process, the mental process that I went through last year this time. And then I woke up this morning and I thought about the feeling that I had last year waking up. Principal Castells and I had talked about what the plan would be for this day last year. And I knew I would play the role of being that nurturer for the students in the building and the staff in the building. I would be the one that was here on site. I would be the one to, out of all things, deliver whatever the news was that was given from the judge. And so the entire day, a year ago, I was on pins and needles. And I was so nervous. I come in my office, I close the door, let down the shade, I cry, I go back out, have a smile on my face because I had to be the supportive one for the staff at that point. They couldn't see me breaking down and struggling that particular day. But I did, and at different points, Ms. Brayboy would try, are you okay, Brooks? I'm okay. But I replayed this morning every step of the way last year. So when Principal C left to go to the courthouse, he came in my office and said, I'm about to leave. He said, I'm going to give you an update of everything that's happening along the way. He said, you will hear it from me first before anyone else, and then you will go deliver the message to the staff. And he left and he said, no matter what the outcome is, we have done everything that we could possibly do. And so we have to be proud of that. And when I say every text message, when the Uber pulled up in front of the courthouse, I received a text. I just pulled up in front of the courthouse. I'm entering the courthouse. We are going inside now, so these are the stream of messages that were being sent to me. The judge just came in. And I was trying to rack my brain today, and I could not remember what the first text message was that came through, or what Principal C actually said, because I remember texting him back and saying, what does that mean? Like, I needed to hear him say the words that NTA is not closing, and it went silent for a while. So at that point, and I had someone else sitting in my office, that I was emotional, but I was holding back my tears because I didn't really know how to, I didn't want to show that person or that individual what I was feeling, because I didn't know what role or what side that person was on with the fight, and they hadn't been around at all, had not spoken about the fight. So the fact that they were sitting in here with me waiting to receive that news, I felt a certain way about it. And so probably about 5 minutes passed, and then the next message was NTA is here to stay. And then I started crying at that point. I could not hold back. And the individual that was in the room asked me if they could see the text messages and asked exactly what Principal C had said. And I said, NTA is here to stay. And they said, what does that mean, that you guys won? I said, no, that definitely means we won. Like, Mr. C didn't have to say we won, just those words alone, I knew exactly what it meant. And then I said, I'm going to go deliver this news to my staff. We are scheduled for the staff to be in the learning lab at 3:30. And I said to the person that was sitting here, I'm going to ask that you not join me to deliver this message to my staff. no disrespect, but you have not been on this journey with us, and I'm not sure how my staff would receive me giving this message with you standing side by side with me. And even though I had heard those words, Principal C had text those words, and I knew what the verdict was. I was so nervous going up to tell every staff member, 80 plus people sitting there, and I was responsible for delivering this message. And I went upstairs like 5 minutes early, and I was standing by the garbage can, and they're watching me, and other people were trickling in. They were trying to read me. Someone said you had a face of, usually you're one that we can read all the time, and we couldn't read what the message was. But the joy in the room when I announced that we had won and NTA was here to stay, and I said the same words that he texted me. The teachers cried, staff cried, some jumped up, some danced. It was just a wonderful feeling. At that point, I called Principal C on FaceTime. He was in the Uber trying to make it back, and we had him vote up there. I said, your staff is here, and they all started screaming and cheering, and they stayed until he made it back, and he ran in, and it was just a wonderful feeling, and one well deserved. Yeah. So a year later, I'm overjoyed that we're sitting here and are able to have this conversation. And with each year comes challenges, and that's any year. But one thing that keeps me excited about doing the work that I do daily, is that piece alone. And every time something comes up, whether it's you guys bringing something to our attention, whether it's families bringing something to our attention, this fight alone and this win alone did not happen because of one individual. It happened because of our community collectively. And as long as we can keep our community together, we will always be successful. We're gonna brainstorm together, we're gonna figure things out, and no school is perfect. But I think what we have here has to be valued, and that's what makes us different from all the rest. With all the schools I've taught at, with the schools that my children attend, they don't compare in terms of the community that we have here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.